All right, welcome to the Lovecraft eZine podcast. This is June the 11th, 2017. Our guest today is Corinna Bechko. Hi, Corinna.
Hello.
Corinna writes comic books for a living, so she has the dream job of probably many who listen to this show. So, let's do prizes and introductions and then talk to Corinna. So why don't we start with Joe and work our way over?
Hi, I'm Joe Pulver, writer, editor.
Matt, are you here or are you frozen? I think you're frozen. All right, and then Pete left. Well, you're fired, Pete. Philip.
Yeah, Philip Fracassi. What happened? Oh, there's Pete.
There's Pete. Let's do Pete.
Matt's still frozen. Go ahead, Pete. You go ahead.
Pete Rawlick, author, editor, man about town.
Don't you ever let that happen again. God. All right, Philip.
Philip Fracassi. I'm a writer and a screenwriter.
And you do interviews too?
When asked.
Yeah, okay.
Whenever asked.
All right.
Publicity more.
Okay. Rick.
I'm Rick Lay. I'm a writer, and I recently submitted a story for Pete Rawlick called The Man in Purple Tatters.
All right. We should talk about that later. I'm not sure if Matt's here or not, so I think everybody listening knows who Matt is by now. He's got a prize too, so we'll have to mention that later. So we'll move on to Corinna. I'm going to read Corinna's Twitter bio. Because I try to have people on this show that I think are interesting. That's kind of my main criteria when I ask someone to be on the show. You know, people who I want to promote and people who I think are interesting. And Corinna certainly fits that bill. Her Twitter bio reads, writer of fictions with a background in zoology, volunteer fossil preparator. I talk a lot about comics, animals, fossils, and coffee. You forgot time travel, but we'll talk about it.
It's only 140 characters.
That's true. Why do you talk about coffee?
That was great until we got to the coffee. How come it couldn't have been tea?
I'll drink tea.
Okay, all right. There you go, 100%.
How does a conversation about coffee happen?
I often just post about coffee. I drink a lot of coffee.
On Twitter, yeah.
I don't know if anybody wants to hear about it, but that's what happens.
Yeah. So you write comic books. Let's see here. You've written Wonder Woman, Angel, from the Buffy universe, Creepy Comics, and a lot more. Talk a little bit about those.
Oh gosh, in general, Angel's my current project. I'm almost done writing this. They call them seasons, like the TV show.
Right.
So, that actually does have a time travel theme this season because that's what they wanted. So they got somebody interested in time travel. So
was that why you got that particular job?
I don't know. They asked me if I wanted to do it, and then they gave me what the theme of the season would be. So I'm assuming that they knew that because why else?
Yeah. Well, why else ask you? Because you've written a hell of a lot of comics now.
Well, that is true. That is true. And I've done a lot of work for Dark Horse as well. So I like working with them.
Can you mention what time period you're traveling?
One is a made up way before primeval type of thing. Also, we visit some big sailing ships and sort of 18th century stuff. And then after that, I can't say because it would be spoilers.
Okay.
Had you read, when they asked you, had you read from season 6 through 10, or then did you have to go and read it then?
I had read sporadically, but they actually sent me an enormous box of comics, all of them going from when the actual show had stopped.
Wow.
So I went and reread everything because I just wanted to make sure that I had everything correct. I like to do my research.
Are you a fan of the show then, I take it?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, I really enjoyed watching it. I hadn't revisited it for a long time. So it was a lot of fun to get back into it from a different perspective of being sort of on the inside.
Yeah, you're watching TV and you're reading comic books going, I'm getting paid for this.
Yeah,
That's great.
that was okay.
So, well, talk about Heathen Town. Let the audience know about Heathen Town, because correct me if I'm wrong, that's where you got your start writing comics. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. That was my first published work. That is a sort of Lovecraftian influenced story. It's a dark, I wrote it, gosh, when was that? 2009, I think it was published. My husband, Gabriel Hardman, worked with me on it. He did the art. He's an artist and a writer. We work on comics a lot together. But yeah, it was set in Florida, in the swamps of Florida. It has to do with the sort of a dark take on the Fountain of Youth. There are mammoths in it, and it's a very, I mean, it's a good thing to talk about during Pride today, because it also has a very Pride-friendly theme.
Okay. What made you get into comic book writing?
You know, I was a writer, and my husband and I had been around the comic book community a lot. We'd gone to cons, and especially San Diego when it was smaller and a little friendlier. And every time we would say, why don't we do this? And I had the story, Heathen Town, and I really wanted to present it in a graphic format. He said, why don't we work on this together? And we did. And then Image Shadowline, when it was all done, saw it and said, oh yeah, we'd love to publish that. So, and then other people saw it, and I got writing offers. And
oh wow!
When you were young, were you a comic book reader?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. I guess from way back, Sandman. Everybody says Sandman, right? But yeah, Sandman was probably an introduction. Love and Rockets. Black Hole is one of my very favorite books. So.
Something I forgot to ask you about Angel, the direction that they wanted you to take, the storyline that was asked, that they asked you to do. How did that come from Joss? You told me that came from Joss Whedon, correctly?
Yeah.
How did that work?
It's sort of in the beginning, before I had written anything or proposed anything, they gave me sort of not an outline exactly, but a range of ideas that they wanted to hit, and sort of notes that they wanted to hit in the season, because it's not as easy as just, oh, go tell an Angel story, because there's also Buffy books, and there's spin-offs, and there's lots of things that all have to weave together. So we have to be really cognizant of, it's not just telling my Angel story, it's telling a story that works within what everyone else is doing and what they want to do with the property. So
right.
That was sort of, I was almost given bullet points of, we want these things to happen, whatever order they happen in, however you make that happen, that's what we want to do. And I was told a time travel road trip was kind of how it was presented to me. So I said, okay, I can run with that.
Oh, wow.
So you don't have to get together and sit in a meeting with all the other writers of the different comics, with the different editors, and sort things out. You just get an email saying this and that.
Everything is, like, I'm working on a project right now for Sideshow that does the nice.
Yeah, I know Sideshow.
Oh, Corinna froze. That's not good.
Right when she was going to talk about Sideshow, damn.
What is Sideshow?
Sideshow collectibles.
They make collectibles. It's like the statues and stuff, but real high-end stuff. They do everything from Marvel to DC to Alien.
Lost her. If she comes back, I'd like to ask her what's her favorite character besides Angel?
Yeah.
Here she comes. She's
Looks
coming
like
back.
she's coming back.
I think my cat did something.
Oh, no problem. If you're having, if it's the computer, you can leave the video off because it's not a big deal.
Right. Okay.
I'd say, I don't know, 80 or 90% of people of the audience listen in the podcast. So, Rick, you had a question.
Yeah, I was saying, besides Angel, who is your favorite character in the Angel universe?
Sorry, say that last part again.
No, it's not, there are a lot of characters in the Angel universe besides Angel.
Yes.
Anyone particular you like?
Well, I'm actually really lucky because I really liked Fred, and this season, one of the things I said was, let's work with Fred. And I said, fantastic. So
now is Fred still this? When the show ended, she was goddess.
Valeria.
yes, Illyria's there too. So I kind of get a 2-for-1.
Oh, did her real consciousness come back, sort of?
Yeah, we get to deal with both of them as individuals and as a sort of almost not a blended personality, but there's a lot of tension and drama out of the two of them being in one person.
So I guess it's sort of like the old Captain Marvel. It's Billy Batson and Captain Marvel. You have Fred and this goddess.
Yes, exactly. And that's how we get to the time travel, because a goddess can maybe do that. So happily, there's an easy out for how they do that.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. It was already established that she had some abilities to do that. So I didn't have to come up with an elaborate scheme.
Amy Acker's performance from Fred to Illyria was just phenomenal, I thought.
Yes. Yeah. And she's terrific. I mean, I really enjoyed her the whole way through. So trying to get her voice right was a challenge, but I hope I did it. I really tried. So
here's kind of a basic question. How do you go about writing a comic book? If you're a comic book writer, what are the steps?
Everybody does it a little bit different. I use Scrivener now for whatever reason. I've found that really helps. What I do is I write a basic prose outline of how I want the arc to go. And then I break that down by issues, however many they want to have, 4 or 5 in an arc usually, sometimes 6. And then after I have what will go in each issue, I break it down by page so that I know where the action beats will go. And I know where I have room to have, say, a splash page, or a room so that there's not like 8 dialogue pages all together that really slows everything down. And so that you can kind of chart how the action will rise and come to a cliffhanger, and still do that. Also thinking of eventually it will be published probably as a graphic novel, and you want everything to smoothly move through the arc too. So then once I have that, I break that down into writing the actual panels per page. So I kind of work backwards from the big story to the small.
Okay.
How much, all right, this is kind of a multi-point question. Going into a project, is the illustrator assigned to you? Or do you get to pick who you want to work with?
Very rarely. Sometimes it goes in like, sometimes when my husband and I work as a team, often we'll co-write and then he will do the art. So then they know that they're hiring a team.
Okay, because my other question was, how much does the illustrator's style and or how familiar with it do you need to be? How much does that influence how you're writing, how you're designing the pages as you're creating them?
A lot, if I know who it'll be. Although I've worked on a lot of jobs where I had no idea who it would be when given the job because of how scheduling works. Sometimes for some of the bigger companies, like for, I did a couple of Once Upon a Time books for Marvel, which were from the television show Once Upon a Time. So for those, I had to work with not just the Marvel people, but the ABC people. And I didn't know who was going to be illustrating them. There was 4 different illustrators on one of them. So I didn't know who they would be ahead of time, and I didn't know until I saw the lettering pass. So then I just had to hope for the best, kind of.
Yeah, I just find that maybe a little shocking, considering you said when they sent you boxes and boxes of books to read before you began, and I know I've heard from actors say, yeah, they sent me this whole ton of stuff to get background. And I would think if I was Marvel, if I was DC, if I was Dark Horse, you're the writer, you're the primary on the entire project. I want you as familiar as who you're working with as is possible.
I mean, in comics, the probably the major, I don't know, the major contributor is the artist, of course, because it's all told in the acting of the drawings and all of that. So it is more difficult when you don't know who it's going to be. Like when Gabriel and I worked together, like on Invisible Republic as our image book, and that's just us and our colorist Jordan Boyd. But we can work together. We write it in a not full script. Then he can work on drawing, and then we'll talk about it throughout the process. And so he can still change things. He can we'll figure out different ways. Maybe it would be better work this way. As we work through it, maybe certain things will move around. And it's a much more organic process. And I think that is when you get the best comics, because it is such a collaborative medium. But sadly, publishing schedules don't always work that way.
What was it like to work on, you do a lot of media work, but Miss Fury, that's 70 years old?
Yes, she was one of the first female superheroes, and she was written and drawn originally by a woman who, she had a cat, she had fashion sense, she was a trailblazer. So I'm so happy that Dynamite let me write an arc of that. It was just so much fun. And that one I also went very, kind of had some Lovecraftian influenced monsters, and I got to do dark magic, and I got to set it in New York in the 40s, and I'm very much put a Val Lewton, it was like kind of truth be known, it was sort of a Val Lewton fan fiction.
Sure. Because why wouldn't you do that, right?
Well, that's what I figured. Nobody told me not to, so I figured, what the hell.
Did you use the cat people?
Oh, yeah. If you read that, there's so much. There are totally, it's just cat people fan fiction. It really is.
Because that seemed the natural fit to Miss Fury.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I could not resist doing that at all. So that's what I did.
Cat people fan fiction. That's great.
Well, there is a sort of this is sort of Val Lewton universe in that the psychiatrist in The Seventh Victim is the psychiatrist in what's the cat people? Yeah.
Yes, and
it's sort of a prequel.
Exactly, and he his books may make an appearance in my run of Miss Fury if you look closely in the library scenes. So.
Okay. There you go.
So you did Wonder Woman as well. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, we did it was a single arc of one little self-contained story. So it wasn't like a major run, but it was in Sensation Comics features Wonder Woman. So my husband Gabriel and I worked on that together, and that was a lot of fun. I mean, I know people are actually talking about Wonder Woman finally right now, but it was interesting because she has such a varied history, and she's been written so many different ways that, unlike, say, writing Angel, where there's all this reference and everybody tries so hard to keep Angel exactly the same. Like, he has changes, but he's the same person and he's recognizable that way. If you read Wonder Woman from a decade ago, 3 decades ago, right now, she's totally different.
Yeah.
So when you sit down to write her, you kind of go, who am I writing? So we talked a lot about that going in, how to present her and make her our Wonder Woman, but still honor what went before, but not have her be so scattered that she just didn't have a personality. So that was sort of the unique challenge there.
And which version of Wonder Woman was she?
I think in the end, she kind of turned out to be closest to the sort of fighting diplomat version.
Yeah.
Like, she wants peace, she wants what's best, but if she has to kick some ass to get it, that's okay.
Yeah, but she will kick your ass if you need it kicked.
And some people need that to happen. So.
That's right.
I have a question just about current continuity. Where is her island right now in the comics?
I can't really answer that because I don't really know the answer to that.
Because when I saw the movie, I kind of got the impression that it's in some pocket dimension that opens on different seas around the world, because it seems to be both Turkey and the United Kingdom in the same movie.
It was like that for a while in the comics, and I am woefully far behind, so I'm not really sure where it's at. I don't think it's matching up with the film, but I could be wrong.
Pete, did you have a question?
Well, no, not a question so much as, well, maybe a comment. I kind of remember, was it in the 70s where they revamped Wonder Woman and basically made her a normal person.
Oh, the depowered version.
Yeah, and I can remember reading those comics and going, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah, where she, I believe she owned like a little boutique fashion store.
Yeah.
Those are something else.
It was sort of the Emma Peel version, is the way I saw it.
Exactly.
Yes.
They made her a secret agent.
Which is okay for a character, but it's not Wonder Woman.
Yeah, it's interesting.
No, that should have been somebody new.
It's exactly, yeah. So that's why it's so difficult. So like you can't honor every single version of her in one little arc. So we just had to kind of pick.
What did you do for Creepy Comics?
Oh, that was actually a lot of fun. That was a little ghost story. I did it with Drew Moss, and we told the story of basically a haunted dollhouse that becomes a haunted large house. So it was just one of an anthology, but gosh, those are really fun to work on. I'm sorry that isn't around anymore.
So
if you were, I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Joe, please.
If you were allowed, Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, whomever, or your own stuff, if you could, the old story is Steranko was brought in to Stan Lee's office and Stan Lee said, pick one. If you were to pick something, what would you pick?
Oh, like an existing property to work on?
Yeah.
Well, I was really lucky because I did get to write Miss Fury, so that was one of those. As far as other stuff goes, something I'd really love to write is Max Headroom. There's never been a comic of it, but I'd love to do it.
Wasn't there a comic? I thought there was.
Was there? If there was,
I thought there was something back in the day.
Was there? Maybe there was, and I missed it. But I would love.
That'd be a great idea.
I think it would work terrific right now. Just update it a little. I think it could be really something.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's high time.
But I've been very lucky because the other thing I really wanted to do was Alien, and I did get to do Alien, crossed over with Vampirella, but that was actually a lot of fun too.
Alien and Vampirella?
Yeah.
Yeah, together on Mars.
I'm a real old guy. I got a thing for Vampirella.
Yeah, you're old.
I loved writing Vampirella too. That was terrific.
So you've said it several times tonight that things that you've written have been Lovecraftian. Mm-hmm. What are your Lovecraftian influences? Where do those come from? And what's all of that about?
I really appreciate the stuff, that sort of horror. Like, I guess if I could write whatever I wanted to do, I would write dark, ambivalent horror. So that's my favorite thing to read. That's my favorite thing to write. And
cosmic horror, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Cosmic horror, yeah. So whenever I can, I like to put that into things, and happily, somebody paved that road early. So I think I came to Lovecraft originally because, ironically, I saw it in The Mouth of Madness, and that led me to reading his books. So that was a long time ago.
That long ago?
What's your favorite Lovecraft story?
Mountains of Madness. Even with the penguins.
I'd like to list a few more comics that you've written. I've got it up on Comixology right now. Well, you mentioned Aliens, Betrayal of the Planet of the Apes. If you guys want to ask her any questions about any of these after I'm done, Betrayal of the Planet of the Apes, Exile on the Planet of the Apes, Laura Croft. You mentioned Once Upon a Time already, and just Planet of the Apes. Okay, there's a lot of Planet of the Apes in there.
Yeah.
I have a question in that regard. Is that the Planet of the Apes was the new movie series, or is that the Planet of the Apes from the original?
Oh no, all the way original, definitely. I love those original movies. I mean, I like the new ones too, but the originals are really.
So was the gorillas, was the huge outfits and big hats and generals and all, okay.
Yeah. I used to work with chimpanzees, so it was a natural fit to work on Planet of the Apes. So.
Where was that? Was that in Florida or?
No, LA Zoo actually.
Okay. Yeah.
I worked in the behavioral research department, so we were looking at how to make the exhibits better from the apes' point of view instead of from the human point of view. So it even fits better with Planet of the Apes.
Okay.
I was going to ask a question.
Yeah.
If I may, I was going to ask. I'm looking at your Amazon page. You do Star Wars comics as well, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. When Dark Horse had the Star Wars license, we worked on Star Wars quite a bit, and then it went to Marvel and Disney. So Disney owns Marvel. So then our run came to an end. But
that's got to be a confusing continuity problem.
Yeah.
They just wiped out all of the stuff that came before. So that's considered just a different thing now. So.
But did they bring back the stuff that Marvel did previously?
Well, it's not really.
Who is honking?
A different thing. So.
I think it's somebody's phone.
Yeah, it was actually my fault. I'm sorry. I should have remembered that.
Well, I felt like it was a gong show about it for the question.
It sounded like something honking.
I could
like
have vibrate.
Groucho Marx duck just dropped from the ceiling.
You said the magic word.
Yeah, magic word.
So Joel, like this, you also worked on Hulk.
Hulk, yeah. That was actually also another little short thing that we did, like one little tiny arc on it. So,
who did you pick for a villain in that arc?
We actually did it so that it was in its own universe, so we could make something new. But it was we got to have Doctor Strange in there too, so that was really fun.
Okay, cool.
Who doesn't want to write Doctor Strange, right? So
Joe's a big Doctor Strange fan.
I'm a fanatic, and it's my fantasy to write a Doctor Strange novel.
See, everybody wants to do that. I would. 100%.
Except for I've been a Doctor Strange fan since Doctor Strange existed. So
that's another one that it was hard to pick. Which Doctor Strange do we put in here? He's been a lot of different ways.
Oh no, that's easy for me, but I can understand from your perspective.
Corinna, how many? I'm looking at all the wide range of projects you've worked on. How much of it is you? And maybe this has changed over the years since you've been doing it, but how much of it is you pitching and how much of it is you being, having the project brought to you and from a company or brand?
Most of these have been brought to me, but I've been really lucky because often they've been projects that I really wanted to do, or maybe an editor will be like, oh, there's this thing we kind of thought of you. Is this anything you're interested in? And then I would say, yes, absolutely. Or like a little while ago, a project was brought to me and they're like, have you ever read this thing? And they expected I would have, I think probably because I'm a girl and I had never even heard of it. So I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I wouldn't have any insight into that. So
it sounds is there like, anything, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Phil.
It sounds to me like you've been in this business for quite some time and you don't lack for work. In other words, it seems to me that people come looking for you. How long did it take you to get to that point? I mean, how'd you get your start in comics?
I think I'm probably luckier than most people because since I'm a writer and I can't really draw worth anything, but since I got to do Heathen Town with a known artist who actually is excellent, and I happen to be married to him, so I married well. So I got really lucky because since we already lived together and worked together, we could do this project that could really showcase what I wanted to do and what he wanted to do. So if you're a writer and you don't have a decent artist to work with, you're really out of luck because nobody's going to read just a script. They're only going to read a full thing that shows that you know how to tell the story and how to communicate with an artist. And that's the biggest thing. So I kind of got a head start. So after that, I was working as a zookeeper and I started getting more and more jobs, and we were getting jobs together. And then eventually it got to the point where it was like, well, I can either take on extra jobs, and I had at that point a 3-hour round trip commute. So I was, this commute's really cutting into my writing time. So at that point I made the leap and went freelance full time and gave up my job. So
was that scary for you? Sorry, Joe, you go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Has anybody come to you with a project that you would have really loved to have done, but you were committed and time wouldn't allow you to accept it?
Oh yeah, that does happen. And I also have done the opposite, where I went, oh sure, I can fit that in, and then I ended up with a lot of sleepless nights. So that certainly is the worst part of this kind of thing, because then you're a freelancer, so you never know. Like, yeah, it's great, too much work right now, but what about next month? What about next year? And you're always kind of having to think ahead to what's it going to be like. Sure, that's doing well now, but what happens around the corner? So it's hard to say no to work.
Oh, hell yeah. I've been self-employed for 20 years, and that's the constant thought on your mind is,
right,
you know, if I am doing well now, but what's it going to be like in 3 months? I not only have to work on what I'm working on now, but I got to make sure that new business is coming in.
Exactly. Like, sure, the last 6 years went okay, but what about the 7th?
Yeah, exactly. Was it scary or nerve-wracking for you when you quit your job and made that leap, or not? Did it not bother you at all?
No, it was very scary. I was scared. I mean, I've never had a job that was very high paying, because I've always kind of I've had a weird career path where I always just did things that I really wanted to do, and most things that are interesting don't pay much. So in truth,
that's true.
To make enough as a comic book writer to rival making enough as a zookeeper, it's not like I used to be a finance person or something.
Right, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I get the impression that from writing point of view, you're mainly sending scripts. And there is another method called the Marvel method, which was basically Stan Lee said to Jack Kirby, here's the general idea, write the thing, and then I'll fill in the dialogue. Have you ever worked in a chaotic way like that?
I have worked on a couple of things that were close to that. And I mean, it's a version of that I do, like on Invisible Republic with that my husband and I do, where we're both writing it, so we're throwing it back and forth. And the first version is kind of this mash of, we know these certain things will happen in these places, and one or the other of us will go in then and write dialogue, and sometimes the dialogue doesn't come in until after the art is done, but we'll have placeholders. So that's almost Marvel method in a way, but that's because I'm right here with him, and we can talk about it. I think it would be hard to do that if also often the artists I'm working with sometimes is, say, in Argentina and doesn't speak English, and I don't speak Spanish, or wherever they are, if they're in Portuguese or wherever. I've worked with a lot of people that we had to use Google Translate, so it's a lot harder to do that then.
Oh yeah. So they take a script and run it through Google Translate?
That has happened. I've had some interesting problems that way crop up, but usually they're fixed by the time it hits the shelves.
I know, because I've tried to translate books using Google Translate, and you get some very awkward translations sometimes.
Yeah, we had one thing in actually in one of the Planet of the Apes comics where we had said somebody needed to be shot, and we'd actually said in the script that they needed to be shot, but in a way that they could, that they're not shot, not killed. So please do not shoot them in the head. And he shot them in the head. In the arcade bag, it's just like this, brains everywhere. And it's like, oh, no, that person is not getting up again, but he has a role in the next issue. So this is not going to.
Well, they shot somebody in the head of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and he survived, so somehow it will work out.
Sometimes it gives you some interesting corners to get out of for the next issue. So,
I always say, it just creased his skull. He was knocked out.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that blood, fix and the colors.
Philip, you have a question, I believe.
Yeah. But on that last point, in the Kingsman, the movie, they shot that guy right in the face, and he comes back in the sequel. Except now he's got sunglasses. So
yeah, but that poor screenwriter. Think about how difficult that was.
Oh, I had to go. My immediately when I saw that he returned, my screenwriter brain immediately went into overdrive of all the different ways I would have pulled that off. I'm sure it was fun. But what I was going to ask you is because you do so much creating and you create a lot of story arcs, and which I was wondering, what other have you ever considered, or are you currently dabbling in other mediums? It seems a natural as a comic book writer. It would seem natural to do something in the screenplay realm, and also wondering if you ever did anything in the prose realm.
Yeah, I've written quite a bit of prose. Some of it's published, some of it's not. I have a novel in the works. I worked on something for a sideshow called the Chronicle of the Underworld. It's a Court of the Dead property. So that was like a big coffee table book. I'm working on some other prose stuff for them right now. So yeah, I'm interested. Prose, I really love to write prose, and I've written a lot of nonfiction prose as well. But screenwriting, I've dabbled in. Nothing's ever been produced, though.
Your prose writing is actually how we met, quote unquote. Right. Because I accepted a story of yours several years ago. Mm-hmm. So.
Well, yeah, it's one of my dreams would be the wrong word, but one of my many things that I hope to do one day is because bucket
list.
Right, bucket list thing. Because I do write prose and I do write screenplays, and I do not write comics, or have not written comics. But I always love the idea of, because I have a lot of ideas and I have a lot of stories that have all the characters and the plot and is all out, but I don't know if it's a novel or if it's a short story or what it is. And I've always had this idea of love the idea of doing a comic book or a graphic novel, and then writing this accompanying screenplay for it, but selling it first as the graphic novel, because so many graphic novels are adapted for the screen these days, with the big superhero push and Marvel and DC being such a huge draw. So it just seems to me, I'm very curious if you've ever considered, if you were to do your own material like you did with your husband, and then going out and pitching that as a movie idea as well. Just seems like a really natural fit. It's not really a question, I guess, as much as a statement, but it intrigues me. Absolutely.
Like we have done that. Invisible Republic actually had quite a bit of interest, and Heathentown had some interest too. We have an agent who does handle that stuff, and we get, there's been a bit of people asking, it goes around, but then it's always the problem of, they tying it up, it goes around and around, and then it doesn't quite happen, and then it goes into the next one. So I've been on the fringes of that, but nothing's ever exactly happened.
What's coming up next for you in comics?
You took my question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Pete, you want to ask that question?
Just between you and me, what's coming next?
Well, actually, I have more Invisible Republic. We'll have the third arc of that we're working on soon. Right now, we're working on something that hasn't been announced yet, that will be announced very, very soon, that one of you
can tell us.
Yeah, no one ever listens. Yeah.
So.
What was that last sentence you said?
Oh, one of you may be wearing a hat that has something to do with it.
Oh, I wonder who that could be, Philip.
Hey, I'm wearing a hat.
You are wearing a hat.
Yeah, the one I'm going to steal if you wear it to Necronomicon.
For those listening later, he's wearing a Green Lantern hat. So,
now, do you have any other Lovecraftian type interests that you're dabbling in at all right now? Even just getting your fingers a little wet, or?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that the answer to that is both yes and no, because I think that those books and those stories, and I particularly like, there's a short story called The Night Ocean that I think of a lot. And
you like The Night Ocean?
I do. I love that one. Is that
Oh
one?
my God.
That's Mike's favorite.
Yeah.
Oh. Do I win a prize now?
So I'm sorry I interrupted. Go ahead.
Well, I just a lot of things like that in particular. Like I think that the feeling and the mood of that story in particular, and some others are kind of creep into a lot of what I work on. I'm working on a couple of, like, this novel I'm working on right now has some. It owes maybe some atmosphere, if not direct, tentacled monsters or whatever, but more atmosphere and mood, I think, a lot.
Which is really what personally I'm more interested in.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's what kind of sets it apart. So.
Well, you like time travel and you like the night ocean, so.
I should get a prize.
Yeah, you should get a prize. Do we have any more comic book questions before I move on, guys?
I'll ask one.
Yes.
We were asked before what hero you would choose if you were given an opportunity to write a let's say a limited series about a villain in comics. Who would you choose?
A villain, huh? Oh gosh. That's a hard question. There are a lot of really fun villains. Maybe the
Okay, here's a simpler question while you're thinking about that one. Heroes or villains?
Villains are more fun.
Absolutely. I mean, a hero is nobody without a good villain.
Exactly.
But I know a ton of people who love the villains and a ton of people who love the heroes. So I was just curious which side of the fence is your side.
Well, every villain is the hero of his own story, right? So.
Yep. All right. If we're done with comic books, I'll move on to. Do you want to spend a few minutes talking about time travel?
Always.
Let me ask you this: what are some of your favorite time travel books?
Oh, I guess I'd have to put Kindred way up there by Octavia Butler. Because, I mean, even though it doesn't have the traditional time travel paradoxes, as far as physics go, I think the sociologically, it's got a lot of paradoxes that more than fit that bill, and it's just such a great exploration of that. So I love that book. I have to say The Time Machine, right? Because that's where it all starts.
Right.
And gosh, there's a lot of short stories that are absolutely wonderful. That gosh, probably too many to even. Caitlin R. Kiernan has dabbled in some interesting stuff in that direction.
Is there any TV episode of a science fiction series about time travel that you really liked?
I don't know if it really counts as time travel per se, but I really enjoyed the 4400 way back when. I mean, that sort of is time travel. Also, I guess, do movies count here too, or are we?
Yeah, movies can count.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Primer is one of my favorites as movies go. I love that movie.
That is a great film.
Isn't it wonderful? You see something different every time you watch it.
Yeah,
Primer?
Yeah, Primer. It's so simple, and it's really a cerebral film. It's so many time travel films fall down to action. And Primer just doesn't. It stays right where it starts. It's a bunch of geeky guys who accidentally discover time travel and end up screwing themselves.
Yeah, nothing good happens to them, but it's fabulous.
I saw it a long time ago, but I've only seen it once. I should watch it again.
I think it rewards multiple viewings, I feel.
Well, yeah, you have to definitely see it at least twice to because once you realize what they're doing,
yeah,
you have to kind of see it again to have it make sense. I was going to ask if you've read the Vandermeer time travel collection.
I haven't. I have it on my TBR pile, but I haven't actually read it yet. I imagine it's wonderful, right?
Yeah, it's a really nice spectrum for sure. It's not all time machine H.G. Wells. There's a lot of different variances on the concept, but it's definitely worth a read if you're a time travel nut.
Maybe I should move it up a few notches.
I'd move it up. It's fine. If you just move it up and read a couple, and then
Yeah. Oh, but I can't do that. I start the book, just have to keep going. That's why.
Oh yeah, I bounce around a lot. I have ADD, but yeah, it's a great resource for people who are into that subject. It's an amazing resource. There's a lot of stories in there.
That's wonderful. Okay, I will take that hint.
Just a curious question about H.G. Wells' The Time Machine.
Mm-hmm.
You first read that or see a movie adaptation of it?
I first read it.
Okay.
Is that the preferred response? But
No,
there is no preferred response.
Because you have a different reaction. I saw the original Rod Taylor version.
Oh, right.
Which worked in nuclear war, which H.G. Wells had no idea of.
Right, that's true.
And it was a little bit of a when you read the book and you see the Morlocks are really the devolved proletariat, for want of a better explanation.
Right.
The lower classes have become monsters. They've been so exploited. It's a bit of a surprise.
That's true. I read the book and saw that film so far apart from each other. That's an interesting point.
Any other movies or TV shows you want to mention that you liked? Time travel?
Let me think.
Time Tunnel.
Yeah, it's Time Tunnel.
Oh, come on! Back in the day, that was a great show.
Great, maybe in quotes, right?
Hey, if you were 11, 12, how old were we back then, Rick? 12 or 13?
Yeah, and your studio had a budget of about $18.50.
Is this Time Tunnel we're talking?
Yeah, we're talking about
Time Tunnel.
It was just amazing how they spoke every language, even if it was in ancient Greece. That was the other thing, and later we got explanations for universal translators.
I was a 12-year-old
the Time Lords.
I was a 12-year-old kid from the inner city. I just wanted some entertainment.
Well, you realize that a lot of footage in all of those time travel episodes were from movies.
I know.
When they did the Trojan War, they took, I think it was from Steve Reeves' Trojan Horse movie.
Well, Doctor Who, the earlier iterations, like during the Fourth Doctor, they made a lot of stuff out of tinfoil. It didn't lessen the experience for me, so.
No, but what's really funny is when you see those same things show up in Star Wars Episode 1 or. It's like, wait a minute, that's from Doctor Who episode.
Like, come on, guys, the original.
Well, since we're talking Doctor Who, I don't know if any of you saw yesterday's episode.
I haven't finished it yet.
It's kind of cool at the end because they bring something back from the third Doctor series.
I haven't seen it yet.
Forgotten alien. And I'm going, oh my good grief, I remember that character.
Okay.
Now I'm intrigued.
Yep, now I got to finish the episode.
It was in like the last 2 minutes.
Okay. Don't spoil it.
Philip, Corinna, I recommended There Will Be Time to Corinna.
Oh, yes, that was wonderful. I really enjoyed that.
The Decolonization of Sam Magruder. Have you read that one?
I haven't read that one.
Oh, yeah, that's a great... It's actually... I can't remember the author's name, but it was written by a paleontologist.
Really? No kidding.
Oh, is that the one about the guy? Yeah, that would interest you, wouldn't it, Corinna?
Yeah, he ends up, the character ends up just falling back into Zoic and having to survive.
I think I read that a very long time ago. Then, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I will put that on my list because that would definitely interest me. Yeah. I actually love Frankenstein Unbound as well, the Corman film.
Oh, Brian Aldiss. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fun one. Maybe not. When I went into it thinking it would not be a serious film. And
then but it's a very effective. Yeah, it's funny that time travel, as much I've complained that they evolve into action films, but a lot of them really have are a lot of commentary on human sociology and moral and societal decay.
Yeah, it gives you a good, an interesting palette to work with, I think, to explore all those themes without being too, if you just went straight straightforward with it, it would get very heavy-handed. But
Right.
it's a good venue for discussing those things, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're just as interested in time travel as I am, so I have to ask, what began that interest?
You know, that's a really good question.
Too long ago.
Yeah, it may have been Doctor Who. I used to watch Doctor Who with my dad when the Fourth Doctor was on PBS and many years ago. So that was probably where it came from.
Is Tom Baker your favorite doctor then?
Yes, he's my doctor.
He's my doctor too.
No, he's my doctor.
He can be all of our doctors. It's okay.
Even though some of us first saw Peter Cushing as Doctor Who, which is a whole different story. But Tom Baker.
Yeah, no.
Philip says he's never seen an episode of Doctor Who. I don't think Joe has either. So
that's amazing.
No, Joe saw some pre-Tom Baker and some Tom Baker, and the only ones I had any appreciation for at all were Tom Baker.
How can you not appreciate Tom Baker?
See,
well, the thing is they were on PBS,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in the very early 70s, and I don't know, they just didn't click.
You needed to get. Here's how I was watching it, and I was very confused about regenerations and the TARDIS and whatever. And luckily, they had like every Doctor Who that had been ever made in paperback at that time, but they had like a little short guide. Who is the Doctor? So I bought that, and then I said, all right, there are four of them. They regenerated. This is how each one had a different personality. The Dalek history wasn't that complicated, the Cybermen history. But it's like anything in the comics these days, which is why we're constantly rebooting characters. If you create a long, convoluted history, it becomes impossible to follow.
Yeah.
The nice thing about some of the doctors, particularly the Tom Bakers, some of them are vaguely Lovecraftian and more Lovecraftian than others. Seeds of Doom is just, to me, so Lovecraftian is ridiculous. The Silurians.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Oh, God. Yeah. Seriously? Deep sea monsters. Go ahead.
You know there's a real people called the Silurians?
Yes, I do.
They were a tribe in the UK, sort of like the Picts. And there's sort of the basis for the tribe in Lovecraft's Fragment the Descendant.
Really?
It's something I'm going to be writing an article on that. I discovered that's what he based them on. They worship Nodens, Lord of the Great Abyss.
Yeah, Corinna, one of these days, Lovecraft eZine Press is going to publish a nonfiction book with a lot of facts like that in it, and the title is going to be Pete and Rick Know Everything. With everything in caps, because they do.
No, but okay, so I spent an entire day last week researching the origins of the word miscegnation.
And what did you find out?
Well, so it came across, apparently this is like the anniversary of the Loving trial. And NPR was doing a commentary on that trial, and it came across them, and they talk about the origin of the word, and it's a made-up word, and it was made up in a pamphlet used to undermine Lincoln's second election.
Oh, huh.
And I can't go. It's actually available to read. You can find it online, and they explain to you the origin of the word and how they made it up. And basically, it's used to say the platform of the Republican Party is to crossbreed various races of humans, even though there's not races.
Right, of course.
And this is why they want to do away with slavery so they can breed and do this, that, the other thing. And of course, it was all a fraud. But there were some very interesting pieces buried in that literature that shed light on some of Lovecraft's use of the term.
Interesting.
And that's going to be a subject of a talk that we're going to give at Necronomicon.
That sounds really interesting. Certainly he had some ill-conceived ideas on some.
Well, he did, but he didn't. I mean, they're not all his ideas, and that's part of the problem, is that, you know, he was being led down a path by what he thought was science and what he thought was, you know, he was very well read, except he's very well read, but about 50 years behind.
Right.
So, you know, he's not up to speed on everything, and he's still falling into traps that other well-read people are leaving behind.
Right.
Shall I give you something as obscure as what you said, Pete?
Sure, go ahead. Hit me.
In the Dunwich Horror, there's a reference to 4 demons. One is Azrael, and the other is, I think, Beelzebub, Belial. And there's one called Buzzriel, which if you read Joshie's comments or Klinger's comments, they can't find him, so they think he's made up by Lovecraft. Buzzriel was actually in a parody about Benedict Arnold. After he turned traitor, he was supposedly a demon from hell, and Lovecraft owned the book that mentioned it.
See, this is so what we're, you know, so this is a little bit of taste what Rick and I and a few other people, Dave Godsword and probably Jeff Shanks, are going to talk about in a panel on Necronomicon called Lovecraft in Context. And to go back and look at what all this stuff meant and where it came from, not now, but then. And you can look at the names he uses and the words he uses, and they mean very different things then than they do now.
And you can be misled if you go to Wikipedia,
right,
and look up what the thing is now, because you're thinking that's the information he was dealing with, when the information has evolved since he used it.
Right. So, but yeah, we're working on this panel, and I hope everybody comes to see it.
All right.
Sorry, plug there.
No, you're fine. Question from the audience from Dave Plouffe. Can Corinna comment on the bookcase behind her?
Oh, that's like maybe.
Wants to know what kinds of books you got back there.
We have a lot of books. That's maybe 20% of our books.
Wow.
So what Corinna doesn't know is that we actually go through and we've done like walking tours of our bookcases.
Really?
Yeah, we've done it.
Well, there's a lot of, that's mostly fiction back there. So a lot of sci-fi, a lot of noir type stuff. I just finished reading Black Wings Has My Angel. What else? Got some Doctor Who novels back there.
Looks like you have something orange hanging off of a book.
Oh yeah, there's from the animated Star Trek series, there was the Tribble Eater.
Oh, the Tribble Eater. I remember the Tribble Eater.
That's a plush Tribble Eater, yes.
It got scared by the giant tribbles.
Back to our bookshelf.
Okay, guys, any more questions for Corinna? All right, I guess not. Thanks, Corinna. I love talking with you. Good to have you on the show.
It's a lot of fun.
Where can people find, well, people can go to Amazon and Comixology to read your comics, correct?
Absolutely, yeah.
You actually have a page on Comixology. So, I'm sorry, you were saying?
Oh, also, I'll be at Denver Comic-Con coming up in, I think, 2.5 weeks.
Okay. Where can people find your prose? You've written a few short stories, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Most of them are out of print right now. Sky Full of Fire, you published, which was fabulous. Thank you for that. And right now I do have a little chapbook I'm selling mostly at cons or on my website, which is just, it's my name, CorinnaBechko.com. So I have a store attached to it.
Cool.
Hang on, my alarm's going off. Forgot to turn it off.
Hey, while Mike's getting his alarm, Corinna, I was going to ask you if you're a fan of and I'm probably mispronouncing it, Junji Ito, Uzumaki.
Oh, yes, absolutely, yes.
Because then you mentioned Black Hole, and it's, I don't know, similar.
Yes.
Uzumaki was one of my favorites.
Absolutely, yes. That is some fantastically creepy stuff.
Yeah.
You should read that.
He gets weird.
Yeah, real weird, but real unsettling.
Yeah, I just picked up Tomy. I haven't read it yet, but I picked it up recently.
Yeah,
I think it's a little. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I've only read the first few pages. I don't might get as cosmic as Uzumaki, but right now it's more of a ghosty serial killer kind of thing.
Oh, I'm expecting that it will go very. I haven't actually read that one, but I'm expecting that it will. All the stuff seems to go very cosmic eventually.
Right.
You find the movies. The movies aren't bad.
Is it animated?
I had to grab my phone. What are we talking about, guys?
Tomei.
Sorry?
Junji Ito and the Uzumaki spirals.
Yeah.
Oh. All right.
How messed up it is. But Pete said there's a movie, which I did not know. Is it animated?
Spirals?
Yeah.
Uzumaki is not animated. It's live.
How did they do that?
It's bizarre.
That must be very disturbing.
Yeah. I'll have to check that out.
Peter and Vlek wants to know if that panel is going to be videotaped. I think the answer is yes to all panels at Necronomicon, isn't it?
Probably, which means, I'll have to defend my positions for decades to come, but yes.
Yes.
Sorry, my cat is yelling.
That's right. All right, let's thank you, Corinna. Really good to talk with you. We are now going to talk about some upcoming books. You're welcome to hang out with us, or you're welcome to leave, whichever you want to do.
I would love to stay, but I have a giant deadline tomorrow that I still have to write several.
No problem.
On, so
thanks for being on this show.
Thank you. This was a whole lot of fun. I'm so glad you guys had me on.
Thanks, Corinna.
Thanks, Corinna.
Come on in back anytime.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you.
All you have to do is just hit your close on your browser and it'll kick you out of the room.
All right. Well, and thank you to everyone watching.
All right. Philip, I believe, has some good news, right?
I do.
Something about
look at this, Mike.
The New York Times.
Before you do that, look at this. Can you see it? I picked this up.
I can see it. There will be time. You got the hardcover.
Yes, I found it at my local used bookstore. I was very pleased.
What was that by Paul Anderson?
Yeah, There Will Be Time. It's an old weird kind of science fiction book club.
One of my favorite time travel novels.
I'm just familiar with Time Patrol by him.
Yeah. Not many people know about this one, which is odd because Time Patrol is so popular.
1972.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I wasn't planning on mentioning. Yeah, I got 2 of my books reviewed in the New York Times last weekend. Last Sunday's New York Times book review gave a reasonably positive review of my collection, Behold the Void, and my new novella, Saculina.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
thank you.
That's great.
Wow.
Yeah, it was cool. I didn't really know it was going to happen. I'd heard that they had asked for my book from my publisher, but that was months ago, and I'd sort of put it out of my head just because I didn't want to think about it. And then Josh Mallerman, writer of Bird Box and the new Black Mad Wheel novel, who's also mentioned in the article, along with Bracken McLeod and Kit Reed and a couple others. Basically it's a summer book review for horror. Josh Mallerman his publicist emailed him the review, and he emailed it to me and Bracken, and a few days before it hit the streets. So it was very exciting. And it's kind of one of those talk about bucket listers. It's definitely a bucket lister for for me. I've been writing for my whole life, and it's one of those dreams that you maybe hope one day to be in the New York Times. When you're first starting out writing, and so I feel very fortunate that I still don't know how they heard about me. My publisher didn't know, and my agent didn't know, and I spoke with Laird, thought maybe he might know since he did the introduction, and he wasn't aware. But what was interesting was the guy who wrote, and this is, I don't think Laird would mind me telling you this, the guy who wrote that review, Terrence Rafferty, actually reviewed and panned Imago Sequence a decade ago.
Really?
And if you read the review that he did, which you can see, I have a link to it on my website, but yeah, he talks quite a bit about Laird's intro to my book before he gets into the actual stories themselves. So it's an interesting perspective.
Did he pan the introduction?
He didn't pan the introduction. I think Laird's point, and it's a bit of a strange thing because it's an introduction to my book, so it's very much about me and my work, and Laird and I being friends, and his sort of like our past together as my writing developed, and he was a great supporter of that. So it was a little strange that Terrence Rafferty took the introduction, which is very subjective toward me, and he kind of pulled it apart a little bit as if it were an essay that was written in the Atlantic or something, and he kind of made Laird's points about horror and about the state of horror, and he took them in a very objective way. So it was a little interesting. I don't know. It was I think it's a little uncommon to do that sort of a thing, but it makes for an interesting article. And his point is basically, let's talk. Laird says there's a resurgence in weird, horror. And is that true or is that not true? Let's take a look at some examples of writers writing today, and then that'll be our thesis for the article. And so it's interesting. It's worth a read if you're a horror fan. And while he does not think I'm the current avatar for new horror, which he made very clear in the first paragraph, and stung just a little bit. Well, this is because I don't know why he even bothered to say it. But he did say some very nice things about my writing and my work. So and it's, hey man, if I can put a New York Times book review blurb on the cover of my books moving forward, it's a win. So I'm very happy about it. And like I said, it was overall positive, and I appreciated his perspective being the reviewer. I thought it was very interesting. So
I've got it for you, Philip. What you could do is you could put ... a new avatar for horror, and then put the quotation mark.
Yeah, no, I was joking with Mallerman about that exact thing. Was our newfound love for ellipses. When pulling quotes from the New York Times. Yeah. Great ... writer ...
Right.
Buy this.
I don't have a newfound love for that. I that's something I've liked for a long time. Ellipses.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah, brackets and ellipses. You can.
It says something about my personality that I can't understand.
I also, if I may, this is probably being too whatever, but I have to say, because I was so ecstatic about it, the New York Times thing was great, and I was very pleased. I will say that I also just received a review in Locus magazine, and the reason I'm bringing it up is because it was written by John Langan, who's a writer I respect immensely, and he gave a glowing review of the collection, and that really made that made my year. I was the New York Times thing was very, very cool, but having someone like John write a glowing review of my work was something that was really special. So yeah, it's been a good week. I got no complaints.
And the collection is Behold the Void, for anyone who wants to buy that. And the novella is?
Saculina is the new novella.
Okay.
And a Saculina is a parasitic barnacle that typically infests crabs and lobsters and things of that nature, and zombifies them and takes them over and uses their bodies as egg sacs.
All right. Have you read 13 Views of the Suicide Woods by Bracken McLeod?
No, I have it. I just picked it up. That's
Did you?
actually mentioned in the article. This is the book right there. And I read the first 2 stories and I really enjoyed them. I haven't got through all of them yet. I just got it the other day.
Well, that's a book I wanted to mention. That's a great title.
It's I mean, I think it's pretty much what you think it is. It's the 2 stories I've read so far are pretty dark, reality-based horror. You know how supernatural it gets. The article talks a lot about it. Compared him to Cornell Woolrich at one point, which I thought was really cool for Bracken. And I enjoyed Bracken's book Stranded, the novel that came out last year from Tor. That was a great book.
Speaking of Langan, House of Windows has just been reprinted, or republished might be more accurate, I guess.
Reissued. Yeah, I think it's coming out June 11th. I'm going by memory.
Today.
And say June 11th, it might be. Hold on, let me look. And Adam Neville's writing the review or the introduction for that.
Right.
The new introduction.
Right.
Yeah. Kind of cool.
Okay, so that if anyone hasn't read House of Windows, you should.
Oh, sorry, July 11th. Sorry, July 11th.
1 month from today.
Yeah.
All right. What other books can we mention? Calls for Submission. ASAP reviewed that by Selena Chambers. ASAP reviewed that at Lovecraft eZine this week. So very positive review.
That's a fabulous book. I got to read that many months ago. I blurbed that. Selena is just an amazing, brilliant writer. Her story from Casilda's Song was that is in that, was originally in Casilda's Song, and that was nominated for a World Fantasy Award. I'm real big on Selena's work.
Yeah, so pick that up. Matt, you want to talk about Tales from the Miskatonic University Library?
Well, I have ordered a copy. I haven't got it yet.
Okay.
I have it.
It was one of those books where it's like, actually, Sam Gafford and we were talking about the next book for Ulthar Press. That was our idea. Then it's like it was pre-stolen by.
Well, there's another one coming out very similar. Welcome to Miskatonic University.
Right. So it was kind of like, well, we always like to stand out from the crowd, because why have sales? I say.
Oh, Rick, you've got it too, huh?
I've got it. And the best story in here, and that's a lot of excellent stories, but the one I really liked was written by A.C. Wise, who is a female author. And it was a different take. In some ways, the Lovecraftian monsters were not the most horrible thing in the story. It was the human element that was more horrible.
Mm-hmm.
All right. This book, I believe, is this the book? I think it's available. Yes, it's available on Kindle Unlimited, I saw.
Yeah, it's a PS book, so it's hard.
Yeah, it's a PS publishing book.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know they did Kindle.
It must be something new.
Yeah.
I guess we should. I gotta go soon, but we should mention the other PS book that just became available to order through a Mythos Darkly.
Yeah.
Which is a reimagining, of Mythos and alternate universes.
Well, there's another one that they had, which is the graphic novel by Sam Gafford.
Yeah, I was going to mention that too. Some notes on a non-entity, the life of H.P. Lovecraft.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like a graphical depiction of Lovecraft's life. It's not supposed to be a fantasy adventure story or anything. It's just a graphic version of his life.
Well, I went to PS Publishing today and I saw the cover for that book, and that looks awesome.
Yeah, I remember when they were working on that at the last Necronomicon.
Yeah, they've been working on it a while.
Right.
Isn't that Jason Eckhart artwork?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
He's a wonderful, wonderful artist.
Hey, Mike, I gotta go to dinner. but I'm going to donate this.
Nameless?
For the prize tonight. It's a nice first edition hardcover.
Yeah, it's a graphic novel, right?
Yep.
It's actually what I think is the very best deep space mythos story in print, in any form, probably. So better than most of the other things that are like mythos space opera.
Right. All right.
All right. Thanks, Pete.
I will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
All right. Somebody help me remember that we've got 2 prizes, because you've got 1 too, right, Matt? What's your prize?
No, actually, that was a swap out.
Oh, okay. That's a swap out. Okay. We have 1 prize, nameless. What else do we got coming out, guys?
Cthulhu Wars.
Yeah. Talk about Cthulhu Wars.
Well, Onslaught 2 is out. So I think if you didn't order it, you can't. It'll be an Onslaught 3 in the summer. If you missed out on this one, where you can order everything that was available in 1 and 2, pretty much. But here we have a bust of H.P. Lovecraft. We have a dole.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
From Through the Gates of the Silver Key. We have, let me just hold this better. Great Race of Yith.
Oh, nice.
Oh, cool. Let me just turn it around a little bit because he's got a ray gun strapped to his chest, which you have to see.
Nice.
A little unusual. This is one of these mythos entities whose name I don't know how to pronounce, but it's the Treader of the Dust from Clark Ashton Smith. It's like a skeletal humanoid in a whirlwind where all these human beings are getting turned into dusty skeletons. And this is Clark Ashton Smith's Ubo Sathla.
Looks pretty cool.
So there's much more, but that's just a sampler. But if you want to get in, watch for Kickstarter for Onslaught 3, because the way they market this, they just make what gets ordered.
See, I think I might be about done. It takes up a lot of space, and it takes forever to get into my hands. It's like, when did we actually order that, Rick?
About 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean,
well, I ordered a lot this time because I had to catch up, but I'm figuring next time they'll just have one new faction, one new Cosmic Terror, maybe some more great old ones, so it won't be that much. 4 boxes maybe in a small little box.
Yeah, you say that, then my wife looks at these boxes as they come in and goes, "What the heck?"
Yes, my wife has the same reaction.
Actually, heck is not the word that she uses.
Yes, and that is true too here.
I do have another question, though.
Yeah.
When do you think the tickets for the ball at Necronomicon or for the prayer breakfast are going to go on sale? Do we have any word on that, or when the gaming tickets are going to go for sale?
Not that I know of.
They kept
but
saying
that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, they kept saying sometime in the spring or summer, and we're pretty soon going to be out of spring.
Yeah, I want to make sure I got a ticket for my son, to go to the prayer breakfast. He's going to be coming.
That's going to be his first Necronomicon then.
Yeah.
So
what is the prayer breakfast? I'm not familiar with it.
Oh, this is, it used to be run by Bob Price, but he kind of overstepped everyone's patience last time. And so it's mostly run by Cody Goodfellow. They have a very nice catered breakfast. Then they have like a choir that sings hymns that have mythos-ish words that are played for amusement. And then like Cody Goodfellow gives a sermon. And, have you ever seen him when he really gets going?
Yeah, it's pretty great.
He's the priest of Yog-Sothoth.
Yeah, it's actually very funny.
They use water bubbles to represent Yog-Sothoth.
Yeah, that was pretty funny last time.
But what it is it's a great way to get together with everybody one last time before people start heading out on their way home.
I want to let the audience know, well, that if you're not reading William Meikle, you should be, in my opinion. And all his Dark Fuse Kindle books are on sale right now for $2.99 each. So check that out.
Okay, now I gotta say that out of all of his characters, he's got this Glasgow investigator named Derek Adams.
Right, he does.
In the Midnight Eye files. The very first one was called The Amulet, and it was a super entertaining mythos gumshoe story. Now, he subsequently wrote two others, The Skin Game and The Sirens, which are also enjoyable but don't really have anything to do with mythos. So if you want to jump into a really terrific Glasgow cop down on his luck, gumshoe kind of story that's really got strong mythos elements, I think The Amulet is a great book to start with. It's one of my favorite things by Meikle.
He has also done a lot of Carnegie the Ghost Finder, using William Hope Hodgson's character.
I'm going to publish one of those books later this year. Rick?
Oh, a Carnegie collection?
Yep.
Because I'm into Carnegie too, and we can have a nice, interesting discussion.
Maybe you can blurb it.
Yeah.
You're publishing one of William Meikle's books, Mike?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
William
Meikle was actually the first guy I ever published. First story I ever accepted would be more accurate. Was a William Meikle story.
I have 4 or 5 of his books. I'm not sure what the titles are.
Plus, the son of a bitch lives in my dream location. Maybe he'll sell me his house when my son graduates from high school.
Where does he live?
He can sit out there with his guitar on Saturday night and watch the whales in the bay.
He lives. Yeah. Where does he live exactly? I don't remember.
Newfoundland or something.
Yeah, right. I just keep seeing pictures from him on Facebook. He lives like right by the ocean in a cold climate, which is exactly where I would like to live. And exactly where my wife would not like to live. So
yeah,
I don't know how we're going to work that out.
And he gets major points because he loves one of my favorite songs, which is John Martin's tribute to Nick Drake, Solid Air.
Well, read William Meikle books. Just Google him on Amazon. Yeah, Google that his name with Amazon, or you can probably go to Dark Fuse as well. So. All right. Anything else, guys?
Dark Fuse, I've heard, they're no longer publishing, right?
I don't know.
The Dark Fuse?
They're selling. I mean, I guess I know that.
I think they are
selling books. I mean,
well, I think their stuff's going to be going out of print. Let me make sure I'm talking about the right publisher before yeah, Dark Fuse, yeah, because Max Booth's book. Dark Fuse book is going out of print, and I guess they're not public. I guess they're not full. I don't know what they're doing, but they're not publishing books anymore. And all the books they have, I think,
because we don't have enough independent press as it is.
Yeah, there was a couple of Facebook
independent
about
press.
it. Yeah, there were a couple of Facebook posts about it, but I don't know the details. But I do know they're stopping. Yeah, you'll have to start publishing more to make up for their loss, Mike.
I'll do what I can, but I'm just one guy.
It's all on you.
I Wish I Was Like You by S.P. Muskowski. I asked SP about this. Her email's reply was, the release date is July 7th, but I've seen one person who pre-ordered via the publisher already and received a paperback copy, and it appears that buying the paperback from Journalstone gives you the option to add an ebook version for free. When I tried it, my Kindle version downloaded immediately. So I Wish I Was Like You by SP Muskowski. Check that out.
Yeah, journalstone.com. If you order from journalstone.com, you can sometimes they'll ship them early. I had somebody read Sakulina like 3 weeks before it was actually came out. They bought the ebook off the website. So independent press. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Rick, do we want to talk about the fact that you may need a ride to Providence for Necronomicon? You're muted.
Yeah, yes.
There you go. Okay.
I live in Bethpage, Long Island, in New York State. And it's very difficult for health reasons for me to travel by plane right now. So if anybody would be offering a car ride from and to Providence from New York, it would be very helpful.
So if you're going to Necronomicon and you live in the New York area, maybe you can help Rick out, because for health reasons, you can't fly anymore. So, or if you know somebody who is. So the latest Doctor Who was good?
Yes, it brought back the Ice Warriors from Mars.
Okay, I'll have to watch it tonight. All right, anything else, guys? Let's give away Nameless. If you want that copy of Nameless, send an email to lovecraftezine.prizes@gmail.com.
And it is a great Lovecraftian work.
Yeah. Put Nameless in the subject of the email. And so I guess that's it. I've got a Patreon if you want to support me. I'd appreciate it. Just Google Patreon and Lovecraft eZine. So, all right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And we will see you next week.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks.